Bonbini or welcome to Curacao. Curacao is located in the Caribbean and comes from the Spanish word corazón, which means heart. Curacao is located in the heart of the ABC Islands, between Aruba and Bonaire. Curacao has temperatures around 86 degrees Fahrenheit all year round. The rain showers in the rainy season from October to January are often very short-lived. The main language on Curacao is Papiamento. Due to the colonial past, Dutch, English and Spanish are also widely spoken. In 2010, the Netherlands Antilles were dissolved and Curacao became an independent country within the kingdom. In this travel documentary, we show you the most beautiful sights and what you can do when you go on holiday to the island of Curacao. And believe me, there's a lot to do. We start with number 20, the old Punda district in Willemstad, the capital of Curacao. In Willemstad, there are definitely a few neighborhoods that are worth seeing. One of them is Punda. Punda means point, and at the point of the bay there's a fort. The Spanish gave the island the name Isla de los Gigantes, or Island of the Giants. After the Spanish left, the so-called useless island to the West Indian Company, led by the Dutch in 1634, they built a fort. They called it Fort Amsterdam. The 18th century colorful houses on the Sint Anna Bay are one of the most photographed houses in Punda. In 1449, the Spanish conquered Curacao. One of the most striking buildings in Punda is the Peña building, a former trading house built at the beginning of the 18th century. Punda has been connected to Otrobanda since 1888 by a 168-meter wooden pontoon bridge called the Queen Emma Bridge. The bridge crosses the Anna Bay, a bay that flows into the sea. Punda and Otrobanda have been on the UNESCO World Heritage List since 1997. It is the only floating wooden swing bridge in the world. Poor people in bare feet did not have to pay to cross the bridge before 1934. At that time, it was still a tall bridge. That is why some rich people simply took off their shoes. When a boat has to pass, a bell rings and the bridge is turned onto planks so that the vessel can pass. If the bridge is open for a long time, ferry boats are used free of charge to get from one side to the other. Punda means point and Otrobanda means other side. The Otrobanda district is located just opposite Punda, on the other side of the water. Ironically, we can say that they were very original in their names. Otrobanda was built in 1707 because Punda was becoming too small. In the 19th century, Otrobanda grew into a cultural center where the emerging black people class flourished. Later in the 1950s, the wealthy residents of Otrobanda moved away to live outside the city and the district increasingly fell into the grip of criminals. The Monumentenzorg Foundation managed to reserve this downward spiral with the help of private investors. In the 80s, it became a red light district. But thanks to Jacob Dekker, things changed. He was a Dutch businessman who saw Curacao as an investment and immediately had a hotel built there with shops and restaurants. The hotel did not survive the competition from hotels on beaches and was revived by new investors after the death of Jacob Dekker. Number 16, Curaholanda Museum. The museum covers topics such as the African slave trade of the West Indian Company, among others. Slave trade was one of the largest trades on Curacao. The museum shows an educational but also moving history of the cruelty of man and his colonial greed. The country houses on Curacao were the main buildings of the plantations on the island. They date from the 17th to the 19th century. We visit Landhuis Jan Kok, surrounded by salt pans with flamingos. After 1634, the plantations on Curacao served to supply the ships of the West Indian Company. Slaves were put to work. The house is located on a hill for several reasons. The landlord had an overview of the plantations and the slave houses, and the trade wind also provided cooling. The house was more defensible, and in times of danger you could ask for help. On the Savannah plantation, they grew sugarcane, peanuts, corn, coconuts, coffee and fruit. When slavery came to an end in 1863, the freed slaves were given the opportunity by the government to lease small pieces of land. Next to the Ascension Country House is a nature park that you can walk through. A little further down the street is a small museum that catches our attention. The small museum Kas di Pali Maishi. Here's the small authentic Kunuku house made for and by slaves. It consists of cow dung and coral stone, among other things. Corn stalks were used for the roof. The houses were inhabited until around 1950. The borders were demarcated by kadushi, a common cactus on Curacao. Soup was also made from cactus. The Arawak Indians already lived on the island before the arrival of the Spanish. They took them as slaves to the Dominican Republic. Later, the Dutch brought them back to the Antilles. Flamingos have become an indispensable part of Curacao. They get their pink color by eating shrimp that they find in the many salt pans that the Dutch built here. Salt extraction is a gift from the Dutch. Salt mining is no longer done. Maybe who worked in the salt pans were blind after 10 years. You will find flamingos especially close to the salt pans of Kokomo Beach and the neighboring country house of Jan Kok, a cruel 18th century slave master. A beach that we just mentioned is Kokomo Beach. If it weren't for the fact that this place was named after the song Kokomo by the Beach Boys, this beach is a bit disappointing. There are beaches where there is more to do, such as Porto Mari, Jan Thiel, Blowby, Grote Knip and Mambo Beach. We prefer Jantil and Porto Mari. Jantil is very well located with restaurants, supermarkets, close to the bus station and surrounded by mangroves, salt pans and chic villas and hotels. Porto Mari has a beautiful white coral sand beach where you can dive and snorkel. Beautiful hiking trails through nature start from the parking lot. The main attraction of the beach are the pigs that walk among the tourists and eagerly use the sea to rinse themselves off. Never seen before in the world. This had to do with the colonial history of Curacao when the Spaniards brought pigs and left them in the wild. Porto Mari is close to Willemstad, or, precisely, Willywood. The nature of Curacao does not allow for many crops to be grown. It is a small island with practically no industry. Many crops and products have to be imported. There is a market in Willemstad where Venezuelans advertise their products. For this, they have to take a boat trip of 7 hours and 7 hours back. On many menus you see stubba. This is a stew of goat meat, chicken, beef or iguana with vegetables and rice or with fried banana. Kadushi soup originated with the slaves. They were only given cornmeal to eat. To make it a bit more varied, they made soup from kadushi cacti. Of course, everyone knows Blue Curacao. It is a liquor that has been made since 1896 in the Shobolobo country house. The Spaniards planted citrus trees, but the fruits were not edible, so they made liquor from it. The blue color that gives Blue Curacao its color is a dye. You can also get it in other colors, but they all taste the same. There is also a liqueur made from chocolate and from the beans of tamarind. The liqueur on Curacao is also the basis for triple sec. Every menu is agua de la munchi, a drink made from freshly squeezed lime with sugar water. When it comes to sweet dishes, pastechi takes the crown. It is a fried pastry filled with fish, meat, cheese wrapped in corn or banana leaves. The flag of Curacao shows 2 stars, one for Curacao and one for Klein Curacao. An hour's boat ride from the Spanish water lies Klein Curacao, which used to be called Nicola. The small island is only 2 miles long and 800 meters wide. It is uninhabited. There used to be more vegetation than there is now, but it was dug up for phosphate mining. There is a new reforestation project. In the past, the West Indian Company used the island to quarantine sick people. The remains of this building can still be seen. Although Klein Curacao is rarely affected by hurricanes, traces have been left on the island. In 1877, the lighthouse was destroyed. A new one was built in the middle of the island. There is also a drinking water well and a few shipwrecks. Klein Curacao is a mecca for divers. Bonaire is also called the Green Island. It is a true eco-paradise for both sun worshippers and adventurous holiday makers or diving enthusiasts. Little rainfall and pleasantly high temperatures ensure that Bonaire is a great place to visit all year round. Due to the northeasterly wind, it is never too hot and the maximum temperature is around 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Although Aruba has a surface area of only 180 square kilometers and is therefore the smallest island of the ABC Islands. The Caribbean island has many interesting sights to fill your holiday with. Most tourists come to Aruba for the pearly white beaches and turquoise sea, but Aruba has also a vibrant culture with influence from Arawak, African and European people. Lagoon is a beautiful beach that is close to the 4-point Santa Marta Bay, one of the most beautiful inlets of Curacao. On the east side of the bay, there's a viewpoint. From here, you have the most beautiful panoramic view of Curacao, looking out over the enchanting bay with the highest mountain of the island in the background, the 372-meter high Sint Christoffel Berg. The underwater world of Curacao is not inferior to Thailand, Mexico or the Canary Islands. A beautiful underwater world with turtles and coral reefs are most beautiful at Porto Mari, but also in Gigantes Bay, at Mambo Beach and Kokomo Beach. Near Willemstad, there's the Reef Mangrove Park, a beautiful domain right next to the city with easy walking paths. There are also mangroves at Gigantes Bay and in the Spanish waters. Until the beginning of the 19th century, the houses in Willemstad were almost all white. White lime plaster was used to smooth the walls. The use of seawater also caused wall cancer, which made the walls softer. The governor of the island obliged the homeowners to paint their houses. Later it turned out that the governor was the largest shareholder of the paint factory. Nowadays it is no longer mandatory, but if you do not paint your house in color, you will no longer have a nice neighbor. Most plants in Curacao must be able to withstand drought. Of the 500 types of plants, the cacti stand out, such as the tall kadushi. In addition, the divi-divi is common, a wind-blown tree that is forced to grow to one side by the trade wind. There are also many palms, bougainvillea, oleander, quebrahacha, jasmine, cordia and many others. The Spanish brought gods with them. and when the Dutch took over the island, the Spanish left the goats behind. These goats were a treat to the fauna on Curacao. They eat everything that crosses their path, which can cause the fertile topsoil to wash away during heavy rainfall. So it is difficult to grow crops and a lot is imported, which often makes food on Curacao expensive. The fauna on Curacao is richer than the flora. Curacao is a real bird paradise. There must be more than 160 species of birds, such as the West Indian parakeet, the sugar thief, a small yellow bird that loves sugar in addition to nectar. You also often see the red and green hummingbird. Of course, there are also the Caribbean flamingos, pelicans and birds of prey such as the caracara, also called wara wara. In addition to birds, there are many lizards such as the blue and green iguanas. Wild-tailed deer and sea turtles are also common species. Shete Boka means 7 inlets in the sea. The park is intended to protect the sea turtles that lay their eggs in the sand. The most famous attraction of the park is the Boka tabla, where the sea rolls into a cave with great force and sprays upwards. Boka Kalki can be reached via a walking path through the mangrove. However, beware of manzanilla trees because they are poisonous. The plantation area Hofi Mango is one of the most diverse nature reserves on the island. Comedian Giandino Asporat opened this park to the general public in 2022. Not only is the area called Hofi Mango home to the only sugar mill in Curacao, but also the remains of a distillery from 1700. Also more than 600 mango trees that are hundreds of years old. Hofi Mango is located on a great terrain that was part of the Santa Cruz plantation for centuries. During the Curacao slave uprising of 1795, this was the place where Tula and the other enslaved people met. From Hofi Mango, you look over the Christoffel Park, our number one of Curacao. There are 4 car routes and 8 hiking trails in the park, including a walk to the top of Christoffelberg. Christoffelberg has a modest height of 375 meters. You can spot the white-tailed deer there and enjoy the silence and the beautiful untouched nature. The country house of the Savonnet Plantation is located in the park. Plantation Savonnet is one of the oldest plantations in Curacao. The mansion houses a museum about the history of the Arawak Indians and about slavery on the plantations. If you want to follow our further travel adventures, you can subscribe to our YouTube page Bart's Travel. To be clear, this is completely free. And you don't have to do anything for it. Just press the subscribe button below this video. Thanks for watching and until our next adventure. Ayo!